All right, class, let's jump right in. When you first pick up Immanuel Kant's Critique of Pure Reason, it can feel, well, a little like hitting a brick wall. It's dense, it's imposing, but I want you to try thinking about it in a totally different way. Don't see it as a book. See it as a grand architectural blueprint, a detailed plan for the entire structure of human knowledge. Kant wasn't just trying to add another room to the house of philosophy. No, he was going all the way down to the foundations to see what the whole building was made of and just how high it could safely go. And hey, don't just take my word for it. This isn't just some metaphor I cooked up. Kant himself used it. He saw his whole project through the eyes of a master architect. You know, before you build a skyscraper, you have to survey the land, test your materials, right? Well, that's exactly what Kant was doing. His critical project was this rigorous, no-stone-unturned examination of reason itself, to figure out what kind of structure it could actually support without collapsing. So for our explainer today, we're going on a guided tour of this incredible blueprint. We'll start with the big picture, the overall project. Then we'll look at the two essential building materials he identifies. After that, we'll inspect the foundation plan, which he calls the Transcendental Aesthetic. From there, we'll see the framing, space and time, and finally, we'll stand back and see what kind of reality this blueprint actually builds for us.
Now, to really get this blueprint, you have to understand the problem Kant was trying to solve. He was working in a time when philosophy was kind of stuck. You had the rationalists who thought you could figure out all of reality just by thinking hard enough, and you had the empiricists who said, nope, all knowledge has to come from experience. Kant looked at this and thought we needed a more stable, a more unshakable foundation for knowledge, something that could guarantee the certainty of science while also, and this was huge for him, leaving some room for human freedom.
And his method for doing this? It was totally revolutionary. He called it transcendental. Now, this doesn't mean looking out at the world or at objects. It means turning the camera around and looking inward, investigating the very structure of our own minds. He was hunting for the a priori conditions of knowledge, the stuff that has to be in place before we have any experience at all. He basically asked, what has to be true about our minds for us to experience the world the way we do? It's a deep dive into the preconditions of experience itself.
So, in what he calls his Doctrine of Elements, which we can think of as his inventory of building supplies, Kant says all our knowledge comes from two fundamental sources. Every single thing we know is a combination of these two distinct but totally cooperative faculties of our mind.
Okay, so on one side you've got sensibility. This is our passive side, our ability to receive information. It's how objects are given to us through our senses. It provides what Kant calls intuitions, basically the raw, unfiltered data of experience. But that raw data on its own is just a chaotic mess. It needs to be organized, and that's where the understanding comes in. This is our active side. It's how objects are thought. The understanding takes all that raw data from our sensibility and starts slapping labels on it, sorting it into files using concepts.
And this brings us to one of the most famous lines in all of philosophy. It's just so good. Kant says these two faculties are totally useless on their own. The understanding, with all its fancy concepts, has nothing to think about without the raw data from sensibility, so its thoughts are empty. And sensibility, with its constant stream of intuitions, is just a meaningless blur without the organizing work of the understanding. Its intuitions are blind. Real knowledge only happens when these two work together, perfectly in sync.
All right, let's move on and see how this foundation actually gets laid. We're now digging into the first part of the blueprint, which Kant calls the Transcendental Aesthetic. Now, don't let the word aesthetic throw you off. This has absolutely nothing to do with art or beauty. For Kant, aesthetic here is the science of our faculty of sensibility, the very foundation of how we experience the world.
So here's the key. The Transcendental Aesthetic is all about figuring out what our own minds contribute to experience before we even get any sensory data. Kant is digging for the pure underlying structure, the pure forms that our sensibility stamps onto everything it receives. It's kind of like a hard drive that comes pre-formatted from the factory. To find this pure form, Kant has us do this cool little thought experiment. So picture a rose. Okay, got it? First, mentally strip away everything you think about it. The concept of rose, what you know about botany, any memories you have of roses. Just get rid of all that. Next, strip away everything that comes from your senses. Its color, its smell, the feel of the thorns. So what's left? You might think, well, nothing. But Kant says, not so fast. You are left with the pure form in which that rose first appeared.
So what is that pure form that's left over? This is it. This is Kant's massive, groundbreaking discovery.
the essential framework that our sensibility provides, these pure forms of all our intuitions, are nothing other than space and time.
I mean, this is a truly radical idea. He's saying space and time are not things out there in the world waiting for us to discover them, and they're not just ideas we get from experience. No, they are the fundamental organizing principles that are hardwired into our minds. They are the lens, the operating system through which we perceive absolutely everything. You can't experience anything except through the framework of space and time.
And this all leads to Kant's most famous and, let's be honest, kind of paradoxical-sounding conclusion. He says that space and time are empirically real, but transcendentally ideal. So, what on earth does that mean? Let's unpack it.
Okay, let's break it down. Empirically real just means that for us, in the world of human experience, space and time are 100% real and objective. They are the non-negotiable rules of the game for every possible experience you or I could ever have. But transcendentally ideal means that if we could somehow step outside of our human point of view, we have no right to say that space and time are properties of things as they are in themselves, totally independent of our minds. They are the shape of our perception, not necessarily the shape of ultimate reality.
So now that we've laid the foundation and looked at the materials, what does this finished building, this architecture of reason, actually look like? What is it that Kant's blueprint ultimately builds for us?
And here it is. This is the big, profound takeaway that completely turned philosophy on its head. Our minds, using these pure forms like space and time, don't just passively soak up the world. They actively construct the structured, orderly world of our experience. This is what gives science its rock-solid foundation. But, and this is the huge but, because our knowledge is built with these uniquely human tools, we can only ever know the world as it appears to us. We are forever locked out from knowing things as they are in themselves, outside the structuring activity of our own minds.
And this leaves us with this final, incredibly provocative question that sits right at the heart of Kant's whole project. If the world we see and touch and measure is shaped by the very architecture of our minds, then what is reality really like when no one's looking? Kant's honest and humbling answer is, we can never truly know. And that leaves us with a profound mystery, right at the very edge of human reason.